Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today on leaving InfoPath Forms behind, change of seasons, change of forms. So thank you for taking the time out of the day to do this. And we'll go through this. We're waiting for a few people to arrive, just give people another minute or two. But meanwhile, I'll let you know that there will be a recording of this webinar after that will send out a link, an email with a link. We'll also post it up on our website under resources. We have a number of webinars and workshops and videos up there, as well as a lot of other resources. So this one will be joining that crowd. And also there's a question box in the webinar. Go to webinar screen, your control panel there, and you can ask questions anytime during this webinar, and we'll try and answer them during the webinar, but if not, we'll get to them after it. So with that said, let me jump right in. We have a lot to cover, and we have an hour or so. We'll try and keep it to a little less than an hour if we can. Some time for questions at the end, if there are any. So let's go. Let's get this slide to change. There we go. I am Scott Restivo, President, CEO of the Crocan Software. We've been around 20 years doing projects in the Microsoft collaboration spaces of Outlook when we first started, but more recently, not even recently, for the past 15 or more years, we've been doing SharePoint and Office 365 development, building applications, and our Nitro Studio, custom solutions, bot services. We're doing a whole variety of work for organizations centered around business process automation and collaboration solutions inside of the Office 365 and SharePoint space. There's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of possibilities for organizations to improve their operations, streamline, especially as people move to Office 365 and Teams. We've been doing a lot with that in the last few years to see how organizations can maximize their use of those platforms to really bring in more efficient operations and streamline activities and modernize processes. And one of the things we'll talk about today is how moving off legacy solutions such as InfoPath, there are other ones like Lotus Notes, Access, even paper, spreadsheets, those kind of things, but focus today is on InfoPath. But in general, moving off legacy programs to the modern forms and workflow solutions that are possible on Microsoft Office, SharePoint, and 365, and using our Nitro Studio, which we developed specifically for that purpose, as a tool in that realm. So what we do here, we're Crocan Software. We do applications. We have a number of out-of-the-box applications that are built on top of our Nitro Studio, and people use those for help desk, asset management, equipment tracking, purchasing, contract management, a number of other things to really turn the SharePoint Office 365 worlds into really useful tools for your business or your organization. We have the Nitro Studio. We also do custom solutions. People ask us to build things that they need, and we have AI and bot services, kind of our leading edge, going more and more into that. And I'll try and show you some of that today. If there's time, some of the bots we have going. I'll show you a simple example. We've done a number of webinars on the bots, and if you're more interested in that, are interested in any of this, we can focus on that specifically with you individually. Now, we are a preferred partner with Microsoft. We're also a California certified small business. We do a lot in the government space, and we're on the GSA contract there. It's GSA schedule. If anybody in government, that could be of interest to you. We're also on the California SLP, which is a software licensing program. So some people in the California government buy through that. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right into. And I want to make sure I got the right slide. Yeah, I do. Okay. Let's jump right into the story with InfoPath here. What we're going to be talking about today is replacing InfoPath. So we want to go review a little bit of where InfoPath came from briefly anyway, and where it's at. So it was the first point is that the mainstream support and extended support have ended for InfoPath 2010. And that in InfoPath 2013, mainstream support ended 3 months ago in July. So it's really time, any kind of support Microsoft's given to it is basically over. Extended support just means minor fixes, and really nothing to hang on to InfoPath for that reason. It's time to move on, and hopefully make the case more and more throughout this webinar. You can see here on this timeline that the first part of InfoPath came out, the first time it was released was 2003. It's almost 20 years ago now. And it was before, and this is what got me when I did this timeline, it's before Amazon Web Services and Azure, the cloud-based services that came in, that have come into such prominence. It was before even the iPhone. The first iPhone was released. It was right after the first iPod. Remember that, way back when? Then the iPhone. There was a world before iPhones. People may forget that. A lot of the younger people probably don't even realize that, but there was a time before iPhones, and that's when the InfoPath was developed, like it looks like 4 years before that. So you can see it was an outdate, it got outdated very quickly. Technology changes very fast. Office 365 came out in 2013. That's about when Microsoft decided, threw up their hands and said, that's enough. We can't do anything more with this technology. It's going to just have to persist, but we're not going to improve it. We can't adapt it for the mobile and cloud world that the web services and the mobile phones brought into existence. And we came along with our Nitro Studio. Now, we had been building Nitro Studio all along as we built our applications. And finally, 3-4 years ago, we decided to make it into its own forms and workflow platform for Office 365 and SharePoint. Take it out, productize it, make it its own thing, because people were asking us about how can we use your platform. They're looking around. Microsoft did not really give them any solution for the InfoPath. They had to move off InfoPath. What did they do? Well, the Power Apps and all that wasn't really sufficient. It wasn't really ready. There really weren't too many solutions. So we had been doing the web parts and all the components of Nitro Studio for years. So we decided to make it into something that's available to people who need it. And turns out that it's grown massively, quite well over the past years as people came back to us with InfoPath projects, and we built in as much as we can to make it so that people can move off InfoPath quite easily using Nitro Studio. Microsoft, like I said, Microsoft ended the development in 2013. They made a statement in 2018 that it's time to think about moving off it. And this always gets me, because every time I do the webinars, it's another month, year later. So here we are now already 3.5 years after that, almost 3.5 years since they said that, and no new features are being added. And they also not saying it couldn't, anything they do in the future, especially on Office 365, might break InfoPath if you happen to be using InfoPath on Office 365. A lot of people using InfoPath are on-premises SharePoint, or sometimes people are using InfoPath on Office 365. Because they really didn't find any other good solution. And once they find out about Nitro Studio, they realize there is a solution that is available to them, and that's why it's good you're attending this webinar. Find out about Nitro Studio, so that you can see that there is an alternative to move off of InfoPath quite easily. But Microsoft does not guarantee that it'll keep working on it, because they're making changes to Office 365, and they can't keep retrofitting for a legacy program that was almost 10 years since they stopped development on it. So why did they stop development? Why did they deprecate it, as it's called? Well, there's many reasons. It's not mobile friendly. It's got limited compatibility with latest browsers. For instance, if you think about 2013, Edge came out since then. Many changes to Chrome, all those changes to the browsers. It's just not the same level of compatibility. It uses this more outdated, clunky technology. I guess you could call it clunky, but just older technologies, put it that way, no longer being developed by Microsoft. And because new services change how they are programmed, InfoPath being 10 years or more, really 10 to 20 years old, is not adapted to these new kinds of connections and things that go on, and new data sources, whereas modern solutions like our Nitro Studio are. So the point here is that it's not only good to get off, it's also holding you back. So even if InfoPath was not being phased out, if this was the technology Microsoft for some crazy reason was keeping going, I don't know why they would, but you'd be missing out. If you're using basically the point here is, if you're using InfoPath, you're missing out on a lot of potential that can bring value to your organization, such as mobile, cloud, modern UI, engaging portals, chatbots, and AI, improved integration with databases and other web services. So it's really holding back your organization. And if you're in a competitive environment, then your competitors are moving forward with the new technologies, leaving your situation, your organization, perhaps stuck in a way that is not as efficient or streamlined as it could be. Something to consider. Okay, so it stopped being a question of when, it's now. It stops being a question of why, it's how. There's no longer a question of when, sometime in the future. Now, what's good about the July 2021 end of mainstream support of InfoPath 2013 that I mentioned, Microsoft ended mainstream support a few months ago. Now, after so many years of giving these webinars, we're finding a lot of people are getting interested and finally saying, okay, we really do have to do something about it. So we've been doing this for years, and we're here to help you out. We call ourselves InfoPath replacement experts. I think that's legitimate because we have been doing this for so many years and helped many organizations make this move. We have a complete package of tools. I'll show you those today, some of those. One of them, the prime one, being Nitro Studio, but we also have other ones that go along with that. We pride ourselves on our support, providing great support. We're a smaller company. We're not anywhere near Microsoft. I don't think many companies are anywhere near Microsoft. We're a smaller company, so we have very engaged with our customers and very interactive with them, and we get a lot of feedback and ideas and collaborative work we're doing to build Nitro Studio, add components, what they need, enhancements, et cetera, et cetera. So really work together with our people, with our customers. And when we're not on the boat sailing, see on the picture of the guy sailing, it's just a nice picture. So I don't actually have a sailboat. There's many free resources we offer too. And just point is we're invested in our customer success, because your success is our success, and it's been that way for many years. So Crocanian's been around 22 years, since 1999. I founded it way back when, and it's grown quite nicely since then. Following along with helping customers get more out of these Microsoft platforms. So let's see we have a number of resources. We have this ebook. Maybe some of you downloaded it. Let me bring over our website and show you some more things. So if you see our crocanian.com, Crocanian software, we're focusing a lot on the Nitro Studio. We do have, let me show you else. There's our rah girl. We have the business applications. These are ones that are ready to go, built on our Nitro Studio, running in SharePoint, on premises, and Office 365. We have our Nitro Studio. We have a blurb about looking for a Nintex alternative, how we're a better choice, a practical alternative to Nintex. If you know what Nintex is, kind of a high-end forms and workflow solution. Now we have all this information on InfoPath replacement going on here, and the Teams and AI bot over here. If you're interested, you can explore our website. Here's the part on InfoPath replacement solutions right here, and we have a number of resources you can go to here to dig down deeper into it. And of course, you're on this webinar, so you'll see some of this live right now as we go further into this webinar. What's on this page? Oh yeah, we have this is our support. It's emphasizing that we have knowledge base, live chat, a forum. We can submit a ticket. We have training, we have manuals. So, we're really looking to engage with our customers in a very proactive and way that keeps them able to use our tools to their most efficiency. And also we learn a lot. It's one of the enjoyable parts of the job is interacting with our customers and finding out what they are and where, what's going on with their solutions and things we provided. So if you want to download the ebook, you can, or look at our other resources. Okay, why use Nitro Studio? Well, we make this case that it's a complete set of tools. Now you look at some of the other solutions, there may be a form solution, or maybe a workflow solution, or maybe some other kind, maybe a portal solution. We have the whole package all in one. When you get Nitro Studio, and I'll show you that, you get the whole enchilada there. You get forms and workflows, custom actions, print manager, list views, portals, branding. If you want to go into, if you're in Office 365, you can go into the Teams integration and the bots. So it's really a full course there of giving you all the capabilities you need, not a kind of an a la carte, one of this, one of that, and mixing it all together. This is a solution that provides everything. No code, low code. You can do most of the actions with no coding just by drag and drop in the Forms Designer. But if you want to do into a low code and add more with some JavaScript or CSS or a little bit of tweaking here and there, that can be done also if that's what you want to do. It's reasonably cost, easy to use. I wouldn't say it's reasonably cost. You can talk to us about the price. We have extensive training resources, and we do offer training courses as well as our support. And it's ideal for InfoPath replacement as well as Lotus Notes, Access, or any of those other forms. Or if you're just starting greenfield and something new, you just want to build a program, some new process you want to implement, then it's good for that too. But I do want to make the point here that it's available on SharePoint on premises. It's the same for Nitro Studio and our applications. On premises in 2013, 2016, 2019, And we already are starting to gear up for the new release of the on-premises version, which is called SharePoint SE, or subscription edition. I did a blog article on that. One of our blogs is about how that's coming out. So everything's going subscription, subscription, subscription. Even on-premises will be subscription in the next version of on-premises. So we're gearing up for that. And also the SharePoint Nitro Studio, it runs inside of your farm. So it's we call it like a Nitro secure or Nitro isolated kind of. So you're there, all your data is kept inside the farm. It doesn't have to make calls to Azure or anything outside of your farm if you have that kind of environment where you have to be secure and keep everything on in your own network. But also more important, and equally important, let's say, is that it runs in Microsoft Office 365. Now here's a point: it runs in the commercial cloud, which is what most people use. But if you're in government, especially US government, then GCC. We are in the GCC, the Government Community Cloud. We have a number of customers running it in that, and we just in the past month or two released a version that runs in the GCC High, and that's a big step forward. That's defense, military, contractors in those spaces. If you're involved in any of that, we now have a version. We're one of the only people that are in a Microsoft collaboration place that does forms and workflows in the GCC High. And it's because we're US based, California. I'm out in California. We're based in California. So one of the things that we could do there is provide a GCC High version. So it's a big step forward. We'll be doing more announcements on that also. I did mention we're in the GSA, Schedule 70, and also the California software licensing program. So if you're in government, we do a lot of government work. In fact, I'll show you later, we're going to be doing a webinar in November or later this month, I think, on improving government services using Office 365 and SharePoint. So you might want to sign up for that if you're in government. So Nitro Studio brings it a full package: forms, workflows, reporting, portals. We have modern UI, classic UI, chatbots, database, all these things. And again, it runs on Office 365 and Teams. I should mention also, when you say Office 365, I assume it means Teams also, as well as the SharePoint on-premises. Nitro Studio has all the things you would need inside of a inside of a form solution. Dynamic forms that show and hide different columns or to different users and different statuses, all kinds of ways of making them work. They're responsive and they work in mobile. We have templates that you can move from one form to another, one site to another, so you don't have to keep repeating it. We can link items together. That means in multiple lists, like say a ticket to an asset, a contract to a document, a purchase to a order system. All kinds of things can be linked together to make this kind of web of information that's available to the user of our program. So we have repeating rows, we have custom actions, we have portals to make end user interfaces really engaging with your logos and colors and big buttons that they like to make it easy for end users to get what they need when they need it, database integration, e-signatures, and much more. This is just a sample of the kind of things we have. We also have the workflows and custom actions. You can build simple or complex, anywhere from simple to complex workflows that based on user input, changes to data, system events, timers. So the workflow manager is very capable and has many types of actions it can implement. It can do like update a list and add a list item and all the basic things like that, but also can integrate with web services, Azure, Teams. It can generate documents. It can integrate with outside systems. It can you can run queries. I mean, the list goes on and on. Of what you can do with a workflow. And the custom actions, the same idea is that that's when a user initiates the action by pressing the assign button or update button or submit button. And it's good it works for many processes. And here's just some examples of what you want to automate. Of course, approvals, that's very common. Escalations, auto assignment, task management, notifications, reporting, document generation, all these different things you can do with our workflows and custom actions to build a full-fledged application. And we have this new visual workflow designer that we came out where you can now piece together different pieces and create these flows and charts visually in our workflow designer. We have the many other components to Nitro Studio. As I say, it's a complete comprehensive package. It's got the portals, the reports and dashboards, the AI services, the list formatting, We have list search, list view, list rollups, email managers. Emails come in and they get converted to tickets, and there's management of the email conversations back and forth. We also have SMS texting on here. We should include that, add that item here. If people want to send text back and forth as far as status of a ticket or questions about things. We have a modern UI, print manager, linking items together, and branding. So there's a lot going on with Nitro Studio. Now, before I jump into other things, I do want to point out that we have some workshops coming up. They're a little technical when you're in Nitro Studio. The point here, if you're new to Nitro Studio, is that we're here to support you. And James, who's on this call, does these workshops once or twice a month and really helps you dig in. These are all free, of course, to get to know Nitro Studio quite well and how to use it in your organization. We have another, it's only next week, I guess, a webinar next week on purchasing. And then on November 4th, we have one on improving government services with Office 365 and SharePoint. So very engaged, very into the whole process. And this is, how to make how to improve and streamline your operations, make it more efficiently using these programs. So deep into it. So what about replacing InfoPath? I'm gonna go through a few slides here, and then we'll jump into demos more of Nitro Studio itself, because it's, one thing to see the PowerPoint slide, it's another thing to see the tool in action. And I want to say, if you ever, hopefully you will get inspired to contact us and get a demo of the Nitro Studio one-on-one. In a webinar, I can talk very generally about what Nitro Studio does, but we're really interested in hearing what your specific situation is. Do you have 100 InfoPath forms or one? Do you have, you're in a hurry to get it done, or you have a long timeline? You're testing us out versus other tools, or you're just, kind of looking, many possibilities that we'd love to hear your story and how we can possibly help with it. Anyways, we're replacing InfoPath. Let's go through a few common principles here. One thing, if you're, just in general here, if you're using InfoPath, the first thing is to stop creating more InfoPath forms, because you're just going to create more trouble for yourself down the road and more processes to migrate. And I know that's easy to say. Maybe you don't have any other choice, and the person walking down the hall says, "Hey, you need to create this form for us. You need to create this workflow for us," and you don't have any choice. But if at all possible, stop creating InfoPath forms and look at moving off them. Like I showed you earlier, it's almost 10 years old, technology outdated, and so much more you can do with modern forms. It's no reason to stick with InfoPath if you can convince your organization and management to make the jump to this. Time is really now. It's really ripe to do it. So the next question comes up about replacing InfoPath. Okay, I have all these forms, or maybe not. What do I do to move them over? Well, here comes a question that is always interesting. I was talking to our team earlier about this. Is it's kind of like when you get Nitro Studio or a forms and workflow solution like that, there's kind of two things that can happen. One is you just have some new process you want to build. It's almost like we're talking like it's like building a house versus renovating a house. So if you got a green field, a clean slate, and you can build the application, you get Nitro Studio in, you build the forms, the workflows, the processes, test it out, etc. It's easy. But if you have something that's already going, now you have to accommodate that existing solution and think how we're going to do it. Are we going to take this process that we're using in InfoPath and just kind of say, okay, that's over, we're starting anew? It's just as if we're abandoning that, saving it for archive and historical purposes, but we're starting new. Or are we going to try and take what's there and convert it over? It's an interesting problem or question that we run into a lot with this InfoPath replacement. Do we take the existing InfoPath form and workflow and try to migrate that over to Nitro Studio, or do we just look at what it is and then rebuild it in Nitro Studio? So interesting question. And some of it is about these three items: forms, data, and workflows. So the forms themselves, what people have tried to move make some kind of tool that magically takes InfoPath forms and turns it into some new form in the modern solutions. But we've worked with that. Of course, that was our, kind of the holy grail for a while to try and do that. And we saw some other people trying it. We tried it, and nobody was successful. And it ended up being this way. Even if it was slightly possible to do something by reading pixel by pixel the form and replicating it in a new solution and doing all this kind of technical rigmarole to get it there. It still ended up you had to like do so much work to replace the form and correct it and fix it and tweak it, that it's just like it's easier just to start with Nitro Studio from scratch. Nitro Studio is easy to use to build a form. We got this incredible forms designer that you can come in and you can just start building forms quite easily. There's really once you get a good facility with it, there's not a lot you have to let's see, where is it? I'll show you maybe that right now. I'm kind of excited by this thing, the Nitro Studio Forms Designer, to show you that you can just build these forms quite easily just by this really fancy forms designer here. Let's see, where is it? Come on, get over here. Okay, so here we go. And of course, this whole thing is a webinar in itself because there's so much you can do inside our forms designer. We have all these capabilities of making it look the way you want and act the way you want. It's easy to do. You can just drag. These all could be moved around in different colors, and you have different tabs and all these capabilities going on in our forms designer. I'll go into that a little more later. Hopefully there'll be time. If not, we'll do a one-on-one demo with you easily on that. But the point is, it's like, back to the question we have here about migrating forms over. It's easier just to look at the form and move it, recreate it. And then you start to find new things you can do with it and new ways you can arrange it and, new styles you can put in. And, why try and fix something that maybe was made 10 years ago or something like that, Anyway, what about data? Data is an interesting story. Data is something that can be exported out. There's a number of tools out there. We have a number of partners that we can work with if needed to extract the data from your InfoPath forms and entries people have made over a period of time and move those into a SharePoint list. Now, once they're in the SharePoint list, the point here is that they do not have the form, they do not have the workflows. It's just data. So these are entries were made historically, and a lot of people, I'd say probably most of the people that we run into, if they want to keep the data, they'll export it out to either database or a SharePoint list kind of as an archive, and then they'll start from new with a new system. But that's, again, one of those questions that if I was talking to you individually, we'd have that discussion and decide what's the best solution for you. And it could be form by form and workflow by workflow, which way to go. But a lot of it is just, okay, archive out, this just stop what we're doing in InfoPath and start new with whatever form solution, like such as Nitro Studio, and go forward from there. That seems to be the best way, but you can extract it out. And the workflows just have to be recreated from scratch. They just don't transfer over. Okay, going through this a little bit more. One way to move from a transition off InfoPath, there is a process that we kind of outlined here over the years of doing this. Now, we find that there's a range of projects. You may be just doing one form. You don't need this big elaborate, process to go. You just, it's pretty easy. You just look at it, move over. But other people we've worked with have had hundreds of forms, and they needed some way to manage and make it doable. So sometimes they'll do like one or two at a time, or a department at a time, or the most critical ones or something. And other times, it's definitely, you have to follow a certain project pattern to get done that way. This is needs a little more organization and this, more complicated. So let us know your situation and we'll gear it to what you want. But just as general principles, here's what it is. You want to know what you have in place. You want a catalog. It could be just a simple spreadsheet. It could be more elaborate. If you could know what you have manually, you just know what InfoPath forms are out there. But if you have more complex situation, you can run PowerShell scripts that will extract out from the existing SharePoint server into a spreadsheet, and then you put that spreadsheet into our InfoPath project management. Let me show you a sample output from an InfoPath server that shows you all the different forms that exist. Here's just some example from somebody we worked with. There's they had, I don't know how many hundreds, 100, almost 200 forms here. And so they were, these are what they had to work through. This is what they got from the extract. And when you get that level, of course, having something like this is really useful. Then you take that and you go over to our InfoPath project manager, which is, we include when you buy Nitro Studio, we can, it's like if you're doing InfoPath replacement project, then you can import those into this project manager, and then each form replacement becomes a project, sort of a mini project of itself, if you need to manage it this way. And you get the details of who, the project name and who it's for. Client could be what department it's for, budgets, whatever you want to put. Again, this is done by Nitro Forms Designer, so it can be modified to be the fields and the layout that you want here. We can work with you on that, but a lot of people use it as is. Anyway, it's one of our Nitro Studio applications, and specifically geared for InfoPath replacement. And then you click the form details. In other words, what within that spreadsheet gets put here. You can look at images of what the InfoPath form looks like and what the Nitro form looks like. So you can see, like, okay, we're going from the older form. You could, if you have a copy of it, a screenshot of it, there's what it looks like in InfoPath, and then you say, okay, what's its progress here inside of Nitro Studio? So you can kind of like do that comparison if people are doing approvals of it and other different tasks and milestones. And, this, again, if you don't need this level of elaborate, don't go there. But if you do, we have this available, and we can do this thing where you export it out, put it into the InfoPath replacement manager tool, and then you can manage each one at a time. It works quite well if you have that level. And I just talked about that here, about the metadata. So I already went through all that. After you do that, you want to look at that list and say, well, we don't need to replicate all those. We don't need to build those again. Or if we do, we need to change the processes. So this again depends on your level of your project. If it's simple, you just look at it, 1 or 2, maybe 5 forms, and say, well, looks like that one hasn't been used since since it was created. And you can look at the usage statistics, by the way, from the InfoPath export that comes out. You say, oh, it hasn't been accessed for 5 years, and then you could just, why bother? Why replicate it? Doesn't make any sense. Other ones, you'll know that there are need to be replaced, and so you want to put those as higher priority and get them done and do the process of doing that. Again, that's something that's good when we have a one-on-one consultation, talk about your project and what's going on and how the best way to get it done. Every organization is a little different. Every organization has, not only that, every form and workflow is a little different. Might be dealing with one department versus another, and there are different personalities in that department, and some users want to move, some users don't want to move. Institutional inertia, we call it. I mean, been there, done that. It's that's why we call ourselves replacement experts, because we've seen so many different scenarios. It's incredible. It's even to the point where the InfoPath form had to be recreated in Nitro Studio exactly. I mean, it couldn't be like any change at all to the wording, to the spacing, even to the point of, there was a complaint about not a complaint, but notice that in the currency it said 0. How when it's blank it says 0.00. It's like no dollars. For some reason, the one in Nitro Studio it put a 0 there, but they didn't know what to do because it wasn't 0.00. So it's like okay. It's such a petty thing, but it's like, and then the person I was talking to was a government agency. It was they were saying, basically, look, if we make any change of where these fields are or the names or anything like that, there's 1,000 people using this form, and we have to go through training sessions for all 1,000 people to train them on the new use of this form, because they were trained on the InfoPath form, what it looks like and how it functions, and any minor change they'd have to be retrained on the InfoPath form, plus rewrite the manuals and all that. So then I sort of understood where he was coming from. I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, maybe a small thing like 0 versus 0.00 doesn't matter, but moving a field in a different place, or giving it a different name, or having a drop list instead of a single line of text, or a different checkbox, all things like that make a big difference. So, we're sensitive to that kind of thing. If you have that kind of restrictive environment where the form has to look exactly and act exactly like the InfoPath one, for those kind of reasons, could be user training, it could be compliance reasons, it could be government regulations, it could be any number of things, then we'll work with you to make that happen. And we built, one of the things we did with Nitro Studio and that form designer is build a tremendous capability to design the form to those kind of exact specifications if needed. It's quite interesting. We have this whole table feature and layout feature and on and on. So as far as we can go with that, we did. So what's the next thing after this? Okay. So here's another thing. If you are looking to replace your InfoPath, you may want to consider a solution. Now, of course, with Crow Canyon, so I'm promoting the Crow Canyon business applications, but maybe you don't have to rebuild the whole InfoPath solution to replace it. I mean, a replacement of the InfoPath. You can just take a pre-existing, well-supported program like one of our applications and make it fit that need. Like our request manager has a lot of flexibility in that regard. Using a pre-built application could save substantial time and effort, as it says here. So the thing is, you say, okay, we'll just put in Crow Canyon's request manager. We'll do a little tweaking of it to fit the needs that the InfoPath was. So it really depends on the flexibility and what you're trying to accomplish. You don't necessarily have to rebuild everything from the InfoPath. You can just say, well, that was nice. That was great. So long. Thank you, InfoPath. But now we're going to go over to a solution that's supported by built and supported by Crow Canyon as a full-fledged application, ready to go. It's one way to go about it, right? Okay, then after that, it's ready to implement the solution. You review the functionality and the purpose. You got users and stakeholders with their feedback. You considered any changes that you might, and that part of that considered changes is the fact that now that you have mobile, cloud, and other capabilities, you may want to revise the business process a bit, if that's possible, and improve and modernize it. So, it's all this opportunity to not only replace InfoPath, but to improve and enhance the business process that InfoPath was in. I mean, the certain tools have certain limitations, and InfoPath does. So therefore, going to a new solution gives new opportunities for change or innovation or enhancements or whatever. It's a new it gives you a chance to refresh the whole process. And then, of course, like I said, you can look at the pre-built third-party solutions like our applications instead of building a whole new solution there. So again, that was just one way to go through the move from off of InfoPath to a tool like Nitro Studio. You want to know what you have. You want to know whether you need to modernize it, improve it, or even replicate it at all, or just store it in the back room, sort of archive it, so to speak. And then or are there alternatives, and then go ahead and implement it. So with that said, I'm gonna get off the PowerPoint and jump into just show you some highlights of Nitro Studio that I can here in the time we have. Here's InfoPath Replacement Manager. Basically, let me do this. We are going to look at a site such as, here's an access request site in a classic SharePoint view. All our applications run in classic or modern. This is the classic view. And this is one example. It's kind of an example I use in a lot of demos. So let's open up one of the forms. I'll have a new item, and it has a Nitro form on it. Underlying all this is the Nitro Studio. And Nitro Studio, you can access from this interface, and it gives you the access request system Nitro Studio right here. So the form you were just looking at right here was built in the form designer for this access request system right here. And this is the form designer for that form that we're looking at. I'm going to go to the access request list. You see it? So if you're like an admin or a developer or somebody, no, I don't call it developer because it's really no code, but someone who's managing these forms or this site could come in and tweak this in many different ways and make the changes, then publish it with the publish thing, and then it shows up on for every user who's using this system here. It has a lot of things going on this form that were built in that form designer we just looked at. Here's some examples of what we can do here. So we look at this access request, type of access change. If it's add, it adds this yellow section that says, okay, you want to add access. So you want to know what date. You want to know whether it's perpetual, meaning ongoing access, or is this temporary, say for a contractor. When does it start? When does it end? If it's perpetual or temporary. If it's modifying, you don't need to see that. And if it's revoking, you don't need to see it. But if you're adding, you need to see that. That's the kind of dynamic forms we can talk about here. We also have Cascade Lookup. So if you choose a category, it has different options under it versus choosing a different category. It has different options under it. That's pretty common. Nothing to write home to mama about. It's Cascade Lookup is pretty standard on these kind of form solutions. Just showing you some of these stuff. But here's another thing. If you go to database, now look up here, there's no SQL tab. If I choose SQL, the SQL tab shows up, and now the person can enter in the information about SQL in there because it's specific to that. If Oracle, then it enters information about Oracle. So you can do all kinds of things like that if you wish. Another example of the dynamic forms, employee or contractor. So if it's an employee, but the employee's name needs access. If it's a contractor, though, you want to get the contractor name, and this is pulled from another list inside of SharePoint. And then when you choose it, it's going to enter in that person's name and representative and all that stuff that is part of that. Yeah. So there it goes. So this is some of the dynamic elements of it, the cascade lookup elements of it. There's a lot of other elements that I can bring in here. You can see the colors and the round buttons and the styling of that is there. All that's possible. You can look at the requesters automatically filled in from Active Directory or the user profile, or it can be pulled from other sources. But this is who I'm logged in as, is the admin account. You can assign tasks and have repeating rows and new items. You can have different ways of showing and hiding and showing different sections. But if you did a new item here, it would stack up here and become a repeating row that is then assigned to as a subtask part of this request. You can look at the Oracle information. I started making a table here showing how things could be laid out. It's just trying to show off a little of the table capabilities of our program. Not complete, but it gives you some sense of how that's done. And then there's signature if you want to sign it. There's tab. Here's another example of like I say, this is a demo environment, and we were just playing around with all these different kind of things you can do with Nitro Studio Form Designer just to show. But if you have something specific you need, just talk to us and we'll see. We've really gotten so much feedback over the years that we feel like there's many things we can do in here, just about anything really that InfoPath or other forms tools can do. So, and these launch custom actions. These are buttons that launch different actions. In records, you do a table of records, anything like that you can do in here. These launch custom actions. So let me cancel this because I'm not going to fill that out. But we can go here and look at what the custom actions do. Custom actions give the ability to, these are a lot of buttons up here, but what they do is they launch specific workflows because the user clicked the button. Or you can have it up here, you have it up here, you can put the buttons different places. You can, have them have custom actions inside of your form wherever you need to have them. Notice also it's putting the number up here, the title, all that. It's highlighting red because it's priority. We made this associated items row have these kind of colors just for fun to show that's possible there. So all kinds of different things you can do with this this form. But really, that's one aspect of it that we go into great depth. I can show you from our. Do we have enough? I hope we still have the form showcase up. We should. I didn't check before I came here. Let me see. This thing's in the way. Okay, here, forms showcase. Well, anyways, we have a place where we show our forms, a number of forms we've done on the website. We can show you that if you need. But there's many variety of ways you can arrange the form. But a lot of people want to see what's behind. Okay, what's next? What about the custom actions? So if we're back here in our Nitro Studio that underlies the access request system, we have workflows and we have custom actions. You can see we have many other components here too, all working together to give you the system you need, as I say, a comprehensive solution, not just parts, this part is the whole enchilada is here. So if we go to custom actions, we can see that there is a number of actions going on here that will happen when the person hits escalate. The escalate button does this. The assign does that. The submit for approval does that. Now, what I want to show here is that we have this new designer, new meaning it came out in the last like 3 to 6 months, and we now have you can create your custom actions using this drag and drop model here. And there's all these different actions you can do. So you start, and then there's something that happens. You query the task list. Then what it's saying here is it's looking at the tasks that are associated. It's doing a query of the list of the associated tasks, and then it's updating anyone that's associated with this particular access request in some fashion. It's updating them. So that's just a few of the simple actions here, but there's many, many other things you can do here. James was doing a workshop, and he had a whole system going here of other actions. Let me show you. I hope I'm finding one that is got more complexity than what I just showed there. Yeah, like here's an example, right? So it starts, it goes to a gateway where there's a question, a condition, is it internal or external? And that's done by this decision here. Is the request type internal or external? If it's internal, external, it follows different paths. This is just, a choice, a condition. And then if it's internal, it goes over here. If it's external, it goes over here. Then it goes back to another decision point if the approver is in there or not approver. And then it goes like that. So there's many ways you can arrange these so that you can make the workflow do exactly what you need. And here we have, you can see a wide range of possibilities here of making these workflows do what you need to do. Some are very simple. Some just come in and they just, notify the user, notify the requester that, and then they're done. And that can be done by email or SMS text. But you can do more complex stuff, invoke a web service, invoke a workflow. In fact, you can invoke a SharePoint workflow or even a Power Automate workflow, as well as one of our Nitro workflows. You can generate a document. So for instance, you might have a purchase order, everything's filled out. Now you want to generate the document. So you just push a button and it generates a document using templates, Excel, Word, or templates you create inside our system. To do that, it can, you can then email that document or save it as a PDF. You can send messages to Teams or create a channel or post a card in Teams if you're using Teams in Office 365. You can invoke Azure functions. I mean, we built in what is needed in these kind of true workflow, robust workflow processes here into the system. And this part up here is where you put a gateway in, and then you have gateways, and it's all drag and drop. It all moves around with you. And that. So that's like the custom action. It's pretty cool tool, and many things other the ways you can go with it to create what you need. We've used that quite a bit. I mean, access request is one way. The escalate right now, where's escalate right here? If we go to our custom actions and we look at escalate, escalate is, I believe, in the what we call the legacy style. This was the older style we had. So if we want to recreate that easily in our designer now, we could. We just go here and put these set of actions, the query list, the update list, the send mail, and all that are all actions over here, query list, query list. So we could create the same thing just by creating one of these diagrams and dragging things over and making it work like that. So anything you want to do along those lines, you can do. So what does it actually do? Well, when I press escalate, it's going to escalate it. How's that for shocking? No, what it's going to do is move it up the ladder. What does it actually do? It queries the list. It sets the priority to high. It sends me an email. It auto assign when it's SQL. It sends it asks the user who to assign it to. Let's run it through. Let's escalate this one. Is already high. Let's find one that's not high. Let's close this one. Find one that's not high here. Not assigned. Let's see if it does this work. Let's see. Let's open this one up in edit mode. And I kind of like I don't know. Some people like the classic view. Some people like the modern view. I don't know. It's up to, I guess it's up to you. So let's see. This is what do I do here? I want to. It's not very good. I'll make this a SQL example right here. Save it. Yeah, this is just a test of attachments. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, it's not a good one to go down with, but let me try this and see what escalate does anyway. Is this demo? I didn't really plan to do this particular item like this, but I figured it'd be fun to kind of see what happens. Escalate. Okay, there goes escalate. Oh, yeah, really. Okay, so I put a little snarky message. It's a demo. We can have fun with it, right? There, did all that. So now it's asking me who I want to assign it to, and I'm going to assign it to James because he's in here. See, that's you kind of do it, these custom actions. And now when you look at it again, it's been priorities high. It's assigned to James. Status is assigned. All that's just by escalate, pushing the escalate button. See? So all that was done that way. And it's kind of interesting, huh? It's pretty cool. You can also do stuff like this. It was what we call the ECB. Escalate can be in here. Escalate can be up on the ribbon. I think it has to be in the items one right here, right? Items, escalate. So it's all kinds of different ways you can make this so useful for your users. It's quite powerful. And it works, of course, in the modern design also. Here's the modern design, same idea, except the ribbon tends to be here instead of in the in that, you know, tabs up at the top. So that's just one example of the many things that can be done here. Another one that people like to see is, you know, email manager. That's where emails come in and converted to tickets. There's also the ability to print. If I wanted to go here and wanted to print this item, where's print? Print should be up here. Oops, print, item print, print setting. I guess I go here and print it. All right, print it, print it, print settings, print, list print. Let's try list print, why not? So it prints it out on a certain template that you want to print out, you know, and you can make it really fancy designs with this, make it look really good. Okay, so many things you can do with that, but there's other aspects to this too that I want to show you. We're getting up a few minutes, so let me show you this part too. As I said, Nitro Studio has many components, many very comprehensive tool. We can do reporting. We have a report center. We can do a portal. Portals could look many different ways. Let's see if there's one up here I have going. Where's the portal right here? No, it's the designer. It's probably in one of these other screens here. Portal. Well, there's a portal here somewhere. But what happens is it shows you portal. There it is. Ah, found it. This is kind of like this isn't a very fancy portal, but gives you another overlay over SharePoint that gives you ability to give your users kind of a different approach to working with this system. And that way they don't have to have the back end SharePoint. They can go like this and just create it. So let's go through that a little bit. I mean, in our system, people can email in. They can go to SharePoint directly. They can even send a text in. They can go to this portal that you create for them to go to. But another way that we can work this lately is bots. So we're looking at, I want to show you bots before the end because it's going to be, then we'll go into questions. There's much more to Nitro Studio, but I think people like to see the bot element also. So if I'm in the bot over here on Microsoft Teams, okay, I set this up with different browsers so we can see it happening. I'm in now as Pavon on this Chrome browser in Teams, and there's running the Nitro bot right here. We're running the Nitro bot inside of Teams, and we set it up so that the person can just say he wants a vacation, you know, just puts vacation in. And there's another way to interact with these systems. We give you all these possibilities and capabilities with our Nitro Studio. So see, this person could go to the back end SharePoint, create a leave request. They could email in a leave request if they have enough detail in it. Usually you have to have a lot of detail for a leave request. Or they could go to the portal and create the leave request. But if they're in Teams, they can go here and request you know, time, let's say Thanksgiving holiday. Oh, there's my calendar. November 25th, right? Yeah, November 25th. The week off. They're going to take the week off, right? So earned leave start date would be 11/22, and the end date would be, I guess, that Friday, the 26th. I mean, obviously, some of them already, it's a holiday anyway, but we'll just put that in just for now for this. Turkey time, right? Turkey time. If they're vegetarian, then it's tofurkey time, turkey time. So they're going to submit it. So they submit it through this Teams, right? The bot, and it's going to go to the manager of Pavon. The manager of Pavon is James, and I have James is over here in another browser, an Edge browser. Here it is. This just got submitted by Pavan from the other browser, and it says leave request, Thanksgiving holiday, week off. You see turkey time, all that I put in. You can open up and look at it. Now the request itself sits in the backend SharePoint application in the request manager tool, not that access request, but another one, in the request manager system, and all the functions can happen there, the workflows and all that. But what it did here is say, okay, we're sending a card to the manager, James, and James can either approve or make some comment or deny it. So he's going to approve it. It says, okay by me. Save some stuffing. Save me some stuffing. But I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know. I was just thinking about a Thanksgiving. Why am I segueing into that? Sorry. I just thinking about stuffing. I like stuffing. I make my own from scratch. Anyway, so here
you must escape lunch.
Yeah, maybe. It's like almost noon here. So James is approving it. He's saying okay. Yeah, no, it's getting late in the webinar. So over here, we're back in Pavan. I hope I'm not moving these screens too fast. I went from James back to Pavan. See, earn leave request approved by James here, and he says, okay, save me some stuffing, right? Obviously a joke, but there it is. And he did all that in Teams. Now, if you're inside of the request manager system in SharePoint, which is right here, you can see all these requests happening right here if you want, or you could look down through the portal, but that was done through the bot. See, this is literally what I just did. Week off, request, it's manager, approval, it's approved by James, save me the stuffing, all that from the bot went here into the here. Now, James could have came here and approved it. Pavan could have came there and made the request, or gone to the portal and made a request, but this is what I want to do. I want to give people options like this. This is like the portal. Yeah, we're just looking at that portal. He could have came in here and done it. So this is the kind of thing that, time to get off InfoPath and move to all these cool new solutions that Nitro Studio gives you. There's so much you can do and your users will love it. You can come in and use Nitro Studio, fancy up this form any way you want, make it good, aestheticize it, beautify it, whatever you want to do, put different colors, logos, have fun with it. That's what the form designer, put different workflows behind it. And then if you get more complex stuff going with multiple layers of workflows and approvals and different kind of criteria for approval and all that, we can do all that with Nitro Studio. And then when you're done with it, you can run reports, you can status, you can see different things going on. You can print out, you can do regular emails to your manager with reports in them. You can, all these kind of things you can do here that make fancy kind of reports. So we should have some graphs here. We have graphs. These all seem to be column charts for some reason, but there are graphs. I like the pie charts and things. There's one. Pie, pumpkin pie. That reminds me of pumpkin pie. All right, I'm not gonna go into that all day.
There you go.
James, any questions? Anything come up?
There's a question about like how would we use like how do we have any tools to help manage the process of moving off InfoPath into the Nitro tool set?
Yeah, like I said, we have the project manager, we have those PowerShell scripts, we have just our general experience with doing this. There aren't really magic tools. Oh, there's one that can do the data, and Nitro Studio itself gives you a lot of power to move off InfoPath. It's mainly getting that catalog of what you have together of the InfoPath, so you can kind of know what you're facing as far as the project goes. And then when you have that catalog, which can be extracted using these PowerShell scripts and other such tools, there are some third-party tools that can pull some information out also. You want to look at that catalog and say, that list of forms really, and say, which ones do we have to migrate or not? And some of that's internal business processes that any tool is not going to help with. It involves just, looking at your business or talking to different people in different departments and seeing if that's useful or not anymore, that tool, or can be modified or enhanced in some way. And then if you do have to extract the data, we have some third-party partners. We can help extract the data and get it into an archived list or a database. And as far as building the forms, well, you have this you kind of line them up and just say that's there and this does this here. And let's be honest, it's not going to be necessarily that easy, snap your fingers thing. And if there was a tool like that, possibly we would have built it already. But what we have done is made Nitro Studio very easy to use. And once you get a facility with it, you can put together applications very quickly, or at least forms very quickly, and add on the workflows and custom actions or whatever else you want to do. It's just, they didn't make it, Microsoft never made it so you just say, okay, here's a convert InfoPath to something else tool there. It's just because the technology's old, it just doesn't translate well. It's not something you can do. So you think that answers that, James? Is that
Yep.
kind of it?
Yep. Yeah, I think that covers it. And a quick question about what's included in the training curriculum for Nitro.
Okay, we can answer. We have that up on our website and can show you that. Here we go. We go to the services training of the Nitro Studio, and we can talk to you individually about this if you'd like. But we do have this Nitro Studio training. I thought we had the curriculum up here at one time. We did have a click to the curriculum at some, but we can provide that if
This
needed.
is a view curriculum now. Doesn't click through.
That's the intro to
Oh,
Nitro.
the intro. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have it
You know
posted,
that.
but
Yeah,
yeah, I
Jay.
mean, I can touch on that real quick. I mean, we go through all that stuff in depth. It's 8 hours of online training, screen sharing. It's not shared, so it is kind of individual for the company, and it is so you can ask specific questions about your needs and how you can best use Nitro to fit your what you need to do with it to convert it over from InfoPath. There's 8 core hours of training, and then about 4 hours of mentoring, so about 12 hours total for the price you get. And so I think it's pretty valuable. You get all the recorded sessions, and I think it's yeah, a lot of our customers have have nothing but good things to say about it. So it's
It,
valuable to add on. So if you're considering Nitro, absolutely you'd want to add on that training service as well.
and you can have up to 6 users in that session.
Hmm.
Not just this, that's not per person. That's, you can have up
Right.
6.
That's
Yeah, that's right. And if anybody's questions about other pricing of the studio itself, we can talk about that. We would hope to hear from you that, could go take the next step as a demo, talk to us. We're not high pressure sales, going to call you all the time. It's just, if it's a tool that fits your needs, it's going to fit your needs and you're going to find it useful and want to move forward with it. It serves a lot of good purposes already for many organizations around the world, not just government, but also education and industries, manufacturing. I mean, it's out there. It's in a lot of use and getting a lot of um, great feedback as how useful it is compared to other solutions out there for the cost. You can buy it for the farm if you're on premises or the tenant. And like I said, it works in the GCC and the GCC High as well as the commercial. Also, you got to remember the Teams element to it too. Nitro Studio has a strong Teams integration if people are moving in the Teams direction and starting to use Teams more. This is one way to really move that usage along. And if you want to go forward with the bot, we can talk with that also. That's, these things can be added later. The bot can be added later to the studio. It's not like it all has to be done at once. So any other questions, James?
I think those are the core ones we had.
Okay, since it's the top of the hour, a little past, we'll have to jump off, but we would be really first of all, really appreciate you joining the webinar and learning more about Nitro Studio, and we'd like to discuss your situation and your needs, requirements individually, find out if we can fit them and work out how we can help you out. That's what we find. That's what we like doing. This is what we do night and day, right, James?
Yes, it is. We live and breathe this stuff.
That's it. Okay, everyone, have a good day. Thank you very much, and hope to see you at another webinar or talk to you maybe by in person through not in person, but through a demo request or an email to us here at sales@crowcanyon.com or a phone call. Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks, James.